Hey, welcome back to the 5-Minute Strategist. I want you to think about a decision you made last week. Something meaty, not just what should I wear today or what shall I have for dinner. Now I want you to think about how you made that decision. Like the actual steps, the data that you used, the things that you felt while you were making that decision, the opinions that you asked for from other people, the pros and cons that you weighed. This is critical thinking. You do it in your day-to-day life without even realizing it. But in your business, this needs to be a much more conscious part of your skill set. Critical thinking is really just about analyzing the facts that you have to form a judgment that is as free from bias and emotion as possible. We use this skill to help us tackle big, complex problems. We break them down into manageable parts. We think about what we could do with them. We take what we already know and apply it to any questions or problems or challenges that are raised. And hopefully you recognize this because in our business, we use it to think about the possible outcomes of doing our strategy one way versus another. We use it to think about how viable a new offer might be. We use it to troubleshoot things that are happening in our ops or our processes or our systems. We're using it to problem solve all the time. But the issue is that when we need to use it most is when we tend to use it least. And that is when we are under pressure. We as humans are programmed to survive, which is great when you're trying not to get eaten on the savannah. But it's not so great in modern society where we can't distinguish between the pain of having to make a decision and the fear of something trying to eat us. So we will do anything to move away from the pressure that we feel in our business. Any action that feels like a release of some of that pressure feels like a winning idea to us. So when we're in the heat of a challenging situation, that's when we want to maximize our ability to analyze a situation before we come up with a solution. This is where critical thinking should shine, but instead we're running away from the pain and the pressure that we're feeling. Instead, we want to break down that complex issue that's in front of us, the big scary challenge that we're avoiding. We want to break it down into manageable parts so that we can understand what's happening. When we look at the big picture, it can be really overwhelming. And then we either freeze or we flee from it. So we either get stuck in procrastination or we just do anything that'll just take away some of that pressure. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. It's just about practicing asking ourselves some questions. What data supports or refutes what you plan to do? What is the outcome that you're aiming for? What are the risks that are involved? If you can step back from the situation and do this analysis first, then you can find a plan of action that's actually going to work rather than just clutching at the first potential solution that comes to you. We're our own biggest challenge when it comes to critical thinking. So you need to understand what your thought process looks like under pressure. So I want you to pay attention in this week when you're faced with a challenge. It doesn't have to be massive. It can be a small challenge or a medium decision that you need to make. I want you to take note of how you react to it initially. What are the first things you feel? What are the first things you think? And then I want you to pay attention to whether that's helpful or not so helpful. And then you can ask yourself some more probing questions as you go through the process of problem solving or making a decision. Ask yourself, what assumptions are you making? What angles haven't you considered? Where might there be some risk? Why do I want to do this solution? Once you understand your initial reactions and you can remove your response from the equation, you can then create a critical thinking framework. First, you define the problem. Second, gather information. Third, analyze it. Fourth, you're going to formulate what are all the potential solutions. 5, you're going to do pros and cons. 6, you're going to think about risk. And then 7, don't forget to come back afterwards and reflect on how well you did, how accurate you were, what worked, what didn't work, what assumption did you forget about. That's how you start to fine-tune it. And if this feels really foreign to you, if you've always been I'm just going to go with my gut kind of person, that's okay. Critical thinking is not a natural talent. It is not something that you are born with or not born with. It is a skill. Like any other skill, you can build on that skill as long as you're prepared to practice it. And we might not always get it right. Like many things in our businesses, we try something, it gives us data, we adapt, and we try again. What's great is that our small businesses offer us plenty of opportunities, problems, and choices that we can practice our critical thinking on. So in what ways can you actively use critical thinking in your business?